What is going on, everyone, and welcome to what I think might be one of my first discussion videos for Fire Emblem Three Houses. I know it's late. I know the game's been out for a long time, but it's taken me a while to finish up my playthroughs, and I wanted to wait till I had more knowledge on the game to do certain discussion videos. And I think we have a good candidate for one right now, and that is Leonie, specifically her B rank conversation. And I'm doing this now because I was reminded of it by someone on my channel yesterday when they commented that they were not so pleased that I recruited Leonie again based on her B rank conversation. And I figured, let's talk about that, right? So Leonie's B rank conversation, specifically with Byleth, which I call Blake in this case.
Hey, Professor, got a minute?
So for those of you who've forgotten, this conversation of Leonie's was locked. The only time you could unlock it was after Gerald's death. And particularly, many people have a problem with the facts of the ending.
There were so many times when I wanted to ask his advice, but I couldn't. I just had to make do.
She is gonna mention what happened, right?
That's how I've made it this far. Just hard work, all on my own. But then you come along. And it's like you don't appreciate Captain Gerald at all, or how lucky you were to have him around your whole life.
Like he just died.
Oh, it still really bothers me. You might be his kid, but I'm still his best apprentice. Got it?
Oh, okay, Leonie. This is literally the worst time to have this conversation. He just died. Why did it unlock after that? Alright, now that I don't understand. That was literally like the worst time to have that conversation. Who next? Claude? Now, this is probably literally the last thing that anybody wants to hear after their parent just died. They didn't appreciate them. Like, literally, I'm trying to think of what possibly worst thing you could do to say, and I find it hard to beat this. Obviously, when I first saw this, I was upset. And looking on Reddit and looking on YouTube, I think the general consensus is that most people were upset by this, and rightfully so. So why am I making this discussion video? For me, immediately when I saw that, I was thinking, why did this support even need to be locked, right? Because I was thinking that this support involved Gerald's death, right? Like that, I thought that was the whole point. Like when I unlocked the B rank and it popped up, I was like, oh, Leonie must want to talk about him because he just died, and that'll be a bonding activity. But no, it was the complete opposite. And in fact, I'd argue that this support could happen at any time. But then we got to the monastery. And if you forgot what happened at the monastery... Oh yeah, alright. Now, maybe I should have just waited for Leonie's support convo, because it clearly seems like she's acting like he's still alive. I think that might just be a mistake on the game designer's point. So I might knock off a few points, but no. I love this game to death right now. Just that was incredibly weird and kind of mood breaking, but...
Captain Gerald's gone. He's gone. And we'd only just reunited.
See, this is much better.
I'm sorry. I'm sure this is even harder on you. But I just can't... I can't believe...
Like, Leonie liked him pretty much as anybody. And I don't know about you all, but I feel like that's essentially almost two different people. And immediately what I came to the conclusion to is that this support, this B rank support, somebody made a mistake. I'm not sure where along the lines that they made it, but it was always my impression that this B rank was supposed to happen before you reach that point. As in, Leonie would be obsessed, thinking, you don't appreciate about your father. Then he dies, and then Leonie clearly sees how much we care about him by all the time we've spent away from the class, how everybody else is worried about us. And then when we meet her again, then she says, I'm sorry, I know this must be harder on you. To me, that's essentially her saying, I know he means more to you than he does to me. And complete opposite of her B rank. And in fact, here's the thing. Most people just seem to think it unlocks after Kranya kills him, and then they think that's when you unlock it. No, guys, you can actually have this even in part 2. I already checked. Like, I would think, because a lot of supports, they have it to where depending on what time period you're in or what route you're in, the words slightly change. But Leonie says the exact same line
and it's
here.
Like you don't appreciate Captain Gerald at all, or how lucky you were to have him around your whole life.
Now let me just paint this picture. You're telling me that not only after we saw him die, spent many days just to ourselves crying over his death, and then we go out and bring to justice his killer. You're honestly trying to tell me that after all that, and I don't know if it changes per your scene, but Leonie was in that scene after we took out, we didn't take out Kranya, after Solon took out Kranya. Leonie's in that scene saying, prepare yourself, we'll avenge our leader here and now. They make it a point to have her there. You're telling me after all that, I'm expected to believe that in post-time skip, Leonie genuinely believes that we do not care about our father at all? I don't buy that. And especially since these lines are exactly the same, to me, it means that they meant to lock it before. It makes a lot more sense if Leonie's obsessive and thinking she's the one who only cares about him. Then he actually dies, and like Gerald said, that was the first time. Like, we don't really show emotions previously in the game, but that's the first time he ever saw us cry, and it was for him. And assuming Leonie is in that battle as well and somehow saw us, right? It makes a lot more sense to me if Leonie realized at that moment we did care. And she feels bad about what she says here. And then, after realizing we care about him, then we move on to her A rank.
Hey, Professor, can we talk? I feel terrible about the last time we spoke. I was trying to apologize and just ended up losing my temper again. I'm really sorry. I figured you'd say that, but I still feel like an idiot. Somehow, I just have a hard time keeping my feelings in check around you. And I think if I don't just tell you what I'm thinking, we'll never be able to have a normal conversation.
So, I would think if Leonie would react to his death negatively at any point in time, it would have been when we met her, when she was crying. But instead, in her most vulnerable moment, she flat out says, I know this is harder on you. So, when I think of Leonie's B rank, to me, it makes too much sense for it to have happened before that moment. And I just look at it as if the developers messed up. Now, if you dislike Leonie because she's obsessive about her father, even so, regardless, I completely understand that, I'm not trying to come to her defense on that part. I'm just saying that for me, it was always my assumption that the developers messed up there and meant to have her B rank later, not have it, and almost meant to close her route off, because I think that would make for a very fitting scenario too. If we don't get close enough to her, and then when he dies, there's a permanent rift between the two of us. That to me makes a lot more sense than believing that somehow, even in post-time skip, after everything we did, she believes we do not care about our father. Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't buy that. So, but those are just my thoughts. Please tell me, what are yours? Because I've been looking for a video specifically talking about this. Couldn't find one, so, thought I'd make my first Fire Emblem Three Houses discussion video on Leonie, because I feel like I know her well enough. Though, still got to do her paralog and see supports with others, but as far as the Golden Deer route goes, which is, I think, the main time you run into this support, for me, it makes a lot more sense. She has to know at this point we care.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's a sudden thing to ask, but I'm not going to feel settled until I know where I stand.
Granted, there are many things that I don't approve of with the developers in general when it concerns Leonie's character, but just think about it. Gerald dies, then Leonie says you don't appreciate him, and then right after that, you see her crying and saying he means more to you than he does to me. Why wasn't she crying, previously in that support? If that happens in between him dying and her crying in the monastery, and that's later, it just doesn't make sense. So to me, I sleep better at night, and I look at it better as if that B rank happened before, and then she realizes how she was being, and then her A rank happens. So, that being said, please post your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will see you all next time.